Melbourne's taken a couple of memorable swings at Hawthorn along the way. Tomorrow night they reconvene. The Power has just landed in Melbourne and Ken Hinkley has come straight to the 360 desk. Kenny, thank you very much.
No problems, Gerard. Glad to be here.
Is it a bit hollow making this trip with so little on the line?
Yeah, I think our season feels that way a little bit. There's no doubt about that. We haven't delivered anywhere near what we would expect of ourselves, let alone anyone else. So it is a little that way, but we've got still plenty for us to play for, I think, and that's part of the momentum for us is to continue to build off a very poor base mid-year to try and gain some respect back.
I can imagine at the start of the year when you get your fixture and all the planning that goes into it, you go Hawthorn round 23, Fremantle, round 21, Fremantle round 23, right, big 3 weeks there, and then you're just playing to salvage.
Yeah, that's right, and you're right. You look at the fixture as much as I looked at the first 5 weeks. I looked at you look at certainly the last 3 or 4. But look, you sit there and you go, that's a good draw. And even Gold Coast in the middle. Gold Coast at Metricon, we expect that to be a pretty tough game. And both sides, Gold Coast and ourselves, have probably not had the years that we want. But hopefully you were thinking going into perhaps finals time that you were going to get a good build-up into that part of the season. Unfortunately for us, as you said, we're playing for different stakes.
It's been a hell of a challenging year, Kenny, on so many fronts. Internally, only you would probably be best to tell us about them. Externally, you would know of people challenging you to change the way you played, and it was pretty incessant there for a while. There's a lot of people, and we're included, should Hinkley changed the way he's played, probably got letters, emails, supporters calling. Not just them, but you got well-respected people in the football industry almost demanding that you had to change. How was that for you?
Oh, no, I appreciate opinions. I do certainly appreciate opinions, but there's also a belief in us as a football club that we know where we're going, where we're trying to get. And yes, we've had a bump and we haven't had the season we would like, but we won't go away from changing the way we expect the game to be played and the way we have to play the game for us to be successful. Now, lots of sides have certain styles of play, and everyone says that they figure you out. I challenge people to figure every side out and still be able to do the same thing. Some of the figuring out is our own blame. And that's the one that I look at more closely than what the opposition are able to do to us. We all know how good Hawthorn have been for a period of time, and yet no one's figured them out. I think that's just the way football is. If you're on top of your game and you're playing well, you can play the style of football you need to play.
Lee Matthews. Do you know Lee Matthews?
I do, yes, I do. Yeah, I've heard of him a couple of times.
Yeah, he said it's really funny. Everyone reckons they've worked out Port Adelaide. He said, but it's really funny, football, when your best players don't play well, it really affects the team's performance. Has there been a bit of that in Port's performance this year? Yeah,
look, I'd say, Robbo, it's a little bit more our mid-range of our team, the heart of our team, I reckon, and some of our boys in that middle part of our group haven't been near the level that they expect to be themselves. Some of our top-end players, and let's look, Boak, Gray, Wingard have had pretty special seasons, but it's that mid-range, and that's usually the sign and strength of your football club, is that part in the middle that holds you together. It's not your bottom end, it's usually not your top end, because both sides have that. Most sides have that. It's that mid-range group of players who have been a little bit down.
It's not here to say, give us names so we can just put the guillotine through them. It's give us the names where, no doubt, you're going to challenge them over the summer and say, right, where's this football team going? A lot's going to rely on this group. So who were some of the names that you were hoping or expecting next year to step up?
I think the obvious ones for us this year is the ones that we've left out of the side at certain times, who are, are credentialed and well-placed AFL players and haven't played to the level they wouldn't. And Tommy Jonas is one of those blokes on our leadership group. Angus Monfries, Lobes at the moment. There's 3 or 4 of them boys who have missed out on their spot on the side. Now, we as a football club don't make decisions to leave those types of people, because they're great characters and they're quality people, that you leave them out of your side, you sit with them and you hold with them for a long period of time. But there comes a breaking point, and for some of those boys we had that breaking point. But what I do like is that they've bounced back, and they've all come back into the side, bar Lobes, who's still out this week, and really improved their game. That's made us, our last 5 or 6 weeks have been pretty consistent, bar one horrendous day.
Last one, can I one more?
Yeah.
Lobes. I'll call him Lobey, I don't know him to call him Lobes. When Ryder went over, everyone was saying, right, Ryder forward, Lobes ruck, relief ruckman, Ryder. Have you learnt that I think Essendon did learn and took a long time to learn, that Ryder is a better ruckman than he is a forward, and that he has more impact as a ruckman than as a forward? He can play forward, but he really can dominate around the ground. Clearly that hasn't turned out as you would have expected when you recruited him?
Not exactly, but I think that's more a reflection of a couple of things. There's been a couple of boys, both blokes have had interruptions Paddy and Lobes had interruptions to the start of the season. They haven't gelled together at the start. They haven't had time together. Ryder's played in a couple of games and kicked 3 and 4 goals for us. We don't expect him to be there and be the Coleman medalist, Paddy Ryder, but between the two of them, him and Lobie, we think we should be able to get some advantage in the ruck and obviously then take some more advantage of that in the forward line. So depends on what you mark it by. Right now, we've got to say it's not where it wants to be. I've got great belief that those two together are going to form a great relationship, and we're going to be very strong in those two positions.
How much is Lobie? Lobie was your number one ruckman. He was doing of the 80%, 90%.
He still is in good form. He still is our number one ruckman.
But he was doing 90% a game, mate. Was that too much for me to say that?
Oh no, without Ryder, he definitely was, because we didn't have another ruck. He was pretty much on his own, and we had Westy and we had Jacko Trengo help out and chop out a little bit. So,
exactly.
Lobes has operated that way, and that's the way he's been good for us last year. We've got to learn, and they've got to learn to operate best together when we get it right.
Do you have to reprogram to say you're not rucking 80%? You're going to be rucking 50%. Did that hurt him? Did that hurt his mentality towards the game or not?
No, I don't think so. He's just such a special team player that he'll do whatever he needs. And it's not 50% for us. I think Lobes is best for us when he's rocking about 70, 75%. And Paddy's probably doing 25, 30 if Paddy's in good form in the forward line. It was more about, in the end, it was more about what Lobes wasn't able to bring to the game, across the game, than what Paddy was doing in the front half.
Ground level?
We thought I thought it was his involvement in the bigger part of the game. And we had that discussion. It was not just his ruck work, it was his involvement in the rest of the game that we were missing a little bit of. So that forced us into making the decision last week, and so we've made that decision. And Paddy was obviously pretty strong in the ruck, so hopefully he can be the same tomorrow against a significant challenge.
Have you got a pretty clear idea what your post-season strategy looks like with what you've got, what you want, and how you'll educate them for the new season? Yeah,
we have, Gerard. We'll certainly do some more work and detail after the next 3 or 4 weeks and sit down and go through, and we won't miss anything. We'll make sure that we're right on top of everything. And that's what happens when you have a disappointing year. You go back, you look at things again, and you make adjustments to what you do. You don't change everything you do. No, you make some adjustments. You say, OK, that part's not up to scratch. We need to be better in this area. We need to be better in that area.
What areas? I mean, seriously, Kenny, you're really honest with us every time you come on. What is the priority? What are the couple of the priorities that you have to really knuckle down?
There's no doubt our defence has dropped off this year. No doubt.
Now, in what regard? Team defence, stoppage defence, what?
Our ability to connect as an 18 on the ground at once. That's what's caused us the most.
Team defence.
Yeah, it's the team defence, because our back six have held up at times, and our midfield have been OK at times, and our forwards have been all right. But collectively together, we haven't gelled for long periods of this season as a team in defence, and we know, and we said right from the start when I got there, that defence will be our heartbeat, and that's where we'll do it, as well as contested football, because you have to win your own ball first. If you can't do that, you're obviously going to be up against it. But then you've got to defend the ground really hard, and if we can defend the ground hard, what we did last week, as I said to the boys, we got our defence right last week a little bit, and we said, was that fun again? And admittedly, all of them said, yeah, that was fun, because they haven't had fun this year. They haven't had fun playing football for most parts of this year. But they actually went back in last week and said, OK, no, that's the fun that we missed. And that was fun based around hard work and team connection.
Now, if you don't do that, is it too simplistic to say they're not sacrificing enough, they're not playing enough selfless football? Because, I mean, to be a good team, defensive team, you've got to do a lot where you don't get a lot of individual reward. Do you think that this year your players got big heads? Players thought it might happen a little bit, and that's not a criticism, it just happens to young teams sometimes. Do you think that maybe we don't have to work as hard as we probably should?
Look, it's not an area that I can be critical of them on as far as work goes. I know the pre-season we put them through last year. I know how hard we pushed them right through that, and we pushed them through the start of the season. Our start of the season was incredibly tough as it looked on paper. But what has broken down at times is that when, as I said before, some of the players within the team have felt the pressure on their own form, which has then made them feel a little bit about themselves a bit more than the team at crucial moments. Now, they're not
self-sacrifice.
They're not selfish boys. They're not. They're just great people, and they work their bums off for the team. But sometimes they get confused with what's needed, and that's what's happened to us a little bit this year.
It has been a day where quite early players have declared their hands, staying, going, retiring. Do you, one way or another, do you think you'll lose Jay Schultz?
No, look, I don't, Gerard, as I sit here tonight, but that doesn't mean things don't happen, and they're not the sort of things that I want to comment on publicly. I just don't think it's the right way to do it. Jay and I have a great relationship. We talk lots. But you know what, sometimes you get in a position where you haven't performed the way you need to, and you get open to all this other stuff, and rightly so. You should be big enough to handle that and deal with it. You don't want to deal with it. I tell you, one way to fix that is to perform better, and we won't have to deal with the scrutiny that comes on 4 or 5 weeks out from the season about who is, who isn't. It's a bad time of the season not to be involved with football, and that's our fault.
1 out of 10, how much do you love Chad Wingard?
A lot.
Yeah, so do we.
Oh, of course we do.
That's a nice note on which to finish, I reckon.
You've got some really good footballs there, and we hope it gets back on track for you.
Thanks, boys.
Kenny, good luck tomorrow night.
Thanks.
Ken Hinkley with us on AFL 360.